We're in the TechCrunch studio today with Karan Mehandru, who's a principal at Trinity Ventures. Karan, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So you are big into the next-gen marketing space, and I think there are two areas that I think it would be great to have a conversation around. One is kind of marketing automation and social media management, and I know you have a lot of thoughts about this space and where things are headed, but maybe briefly just sort of set the stage for us and how you're thinking about that world.
Sure. Happy to dive into both those markets, but I think at a high level, it's worth highlighting some macro trends that are emerging, which is causing us to have an interest in that space and also fueling a lot of innovation and investment in that category. To start with, I think the marketing channels are transforming really, really quickly, and the way we are communicating with each other is a lot different now than it used to be 5 years ago. And for a company to target and prospect their customers, they have to be accessing them in the channels that they're accessing. And part of it is that marketing tools and marketing software has to evolve along with the way communication has evolved. So that's the primary driver for why there's so much investment in this category. And I think we're getting more and more familiar and comfortable with this concept of what we've been calling consumerization of the enterprise, but more specifically consumerization of the B2B sales process, where enterprises and companies are used to and are almost expecting software to be easy to use, quick to deploy, lightweight, web-based freemium models, free to trial models. And I think that's a secular trend that is here to stay for the enterprise as well as for the consumers. But I think diving more into the two areas that you mentioned, and by the way, it's not surprising that the CMOs today, or the technology budget for the CMOs, is almost rivaling, if not eclipsing, CIOs. And I think in the next 18 to 24 months, it's definitely going to eclipse the CIOs.
And what would you say is a key driver of that budget increase?
I think part of it is if you look at how SaaS has become the deployment method for software to be delivered by vendors and consumed by customers, there is a concept of purchasing at the edge that is coming into fray, which is employees and sales and marketing folks are buying software without ever involving IT. And I think that trend has caused a massive proliferation of software to...
So that means, so in layman's terms, that means that somebody sitting at a big company doesn't have to go check 2 or 3 levels up with the IT manager and say, hey, can I buy this? They can actually just go and subscribe to it.
Absolutely. And I think that's, again, a secular trend that's here to stay. I don't think we're going to be going back where sales software or marketing software is going to be sold through IT. It's just going to be purchased by the employees that are actually using it or the lines of businesses that require it. But talking more about social media management, and I think these two markets, social media management and marketing automation, are interesting because I think both these markets are going through a period of transition. If you look at social media management, we saw the first wave with a lot of acquisitions, like Vitru and Buddy Media acquired by Oracle and Salesforce. And I think where we are right now in this space is wave 1 of social media management, which is about brand level awareness. And I think where the market is going is around product level revenue. So the marketers are waking up and saying, hey, what's my real ROI for some of these marketing campaigns that I'm running on these social media channels? And there's no company right now that is trying to solve that problem. We have an investment in a company called ShopIgniter and another company called Dynamic Signal that is essentially bridging this gap for these marketers and saying, look, you're on Facebook and you're sharing a lot of stuff, but you're not necessarily there to buy. And there's e-commerce companies where you're buying a lot of stuff, but you're not necessarily sharing. And there's this chasm that the marketers have to cross. And the way you cross that chasm is by discovering, engaging, and amplifying conversations that are happening around product, not necessarily about brand. And that's the heart of what ShopIgniter does today, is product level promotions, which will be wave 2 in my mind of social media management.
Right.
And I think wave 3, which we'll get to in 18 to 24 months, will be around commerce. So you now have a real end-to-end ROI-based model of how these campaigns are
So the
doing.
progression you see, just to summarize that, is first wave is sort of brand awareness. I need to be aware of this company.
I like Nike, for example.
Then we start selling fuel bands. Then we start selling shoes and other things.
Exactly. And then eventually you tie it back to say, look, this VIP sale or flash sale that I ran on Facebook or on my website resulted in these many fans, followers, likes, shares, whatever it may be. And it resulted in these many dollars that were transacted. And so you can tie real ROI to those campaigns. So that's why I think this market is in transition, and it creates a lot of opportunity for companies like ShopIgniter and Dynamic Signal.
Let's talk about a little bit now marketing automation. Your thoughts around that?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because that market itself is also going through a transition. And we saw the first wave with email marketing, exact target, constant contact responses, all did well in their own right. But I think the market is now realizing that they need more than just email marketing. If email gets more commoditized as a delivery mechanism for outbound marketing, the next market that emerges is marketing automation, where there's a lot of companies that are doing well in that category. But I think that there's a third step, which specifically in the mid-market, which in my opinion is a huge untapped opportunity for companies to serve that piece of the pie. And I think where that's headed is an integrated marketing solution that combines outbound marketing, inbound marketing, social media management, sales enablement.
So you aggregate it.
You basically aggregate it, and you provide a holistic view of all of your online marketing campaigns.
So quick question though, in terms of like, let's say email as a marketing channel, it seems to me at least for most people like that has the most effective or highest open rate and sort of click-through rates,
right,
and all those sorts of things. Are other channels even challenging email? I mean,
email will always be important. It's definitely not going to go away. And I don't think that wave 2 and wave 3 of marketing automation and this integrated marketing platform, which companies like Acton Software, which is one of our investments, is building, is going to replace email. I do think that having email will be a prerequisite to being a category leader for marketing automation, and having marketing automation will be a prerequisite to being a category leader for integrated marketing, where you combine email with inbound marketing functionality, and also include some elements of social media. But I don't think so to make it really, to boil it down, I think that companies like Acton will require to be really good at email to be able to prove themselves out in the second 2 waves.
I see. And then any sort of two final questions. One is like any entrepreneur out there who's maybe in the marketing space or has had a background in this, thinking about starting their own company. What kind of advice would you give them? You know, you've seen a lot of these companies and a lot of founders in the space.
Yeah, I mean, I think to start with, I would say, I'll tell you the founders that I resonate to the most. I think, and some of it is going to sound cliched, but I think it's worth repeating. Yeah. The first is people that are really passionate about the problem that they're solving, right? And I take that pretty personally, and as an investor as well, since I was on the sales and marketing side, and I wish I had some of these tools when I was running sales and marketing for some of these companies on the operation side. But I think for me, the entrepreneurs that I really resonate to, believe in really what they're doing and are really passionate about the problem that they're trying to solve. I also think that just to have a very high degree of self-awareness, an acute sense of self-awareness, where you know what you're good at, where you're not good at, and also augment yourself by building a team around you that is much better in those facets. I think that's really important. And then understand where the puck is going, right? And pardon my Canadian sport analogy, but I am from Canada, and we're trying to make investments in companies that understand not where the puck is right now, but where the puck's going. So kind of have a vision for the future and drive towards it. And those are the kinds of entrepreneurs that I
And so for the final question, you kind of touched on a little bit. You have a lot of deep operational experience in this area as a sales person, as a marketer, as an engineer. What is it that's driving you, to look at next gen marketing? Has been informed through your work?
Yeah, I think 2 things. I guess one is just as an investor, we're dedicated to finding gaps in the market, finding opportunities, whether disruptive or evolutionary, to find investments. But for me personally, having been on the other side, where I've sold software, where I've marketed software, some of these investments that I'm making and we're making as a firm at Trinity are tools that I wish I had when I was running sales and marketing. And it's great to be investing in technologies that you could actually use as an individual or could have used as an individual. So it's a very natural fit in terms of a market area for me as an investment area and also as a thesis for Trinity.
Great. Well, Karan, thanks for coming in.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Yep.